Right, g'day everyone. I'm sure some of you have been wondering where the hell all my content is. Where's all the new videos? And basically, what I've done is I've loaded them up to Patreon to reward everyone over there that's helping me out. So if you have been looking for the content and wondering where it is, that's what's happened. For as little as $5 a month, which is a pot of beer at the pub, once a month, you can jump over there and get access to pretty much all the content. There is a couple other levels that you can jump up into to raise your support, but you also get some extra stuff there as well. Basically, the reason for that is after having a YouTube channel for so many years, sometimes you sort of get to a point where it's gone past a bit of a hobby. It's taking up a lot of my time, social media commitments to answering comments and questions and phone calls with the business and whatnot. It just becomes a bit more of a chore, but with the Patreon support, it just really motivates me to keep going. I think without Patreon, I would have given it up by now and it would have just become something that I did every now and again as I pleased. But with that Patreon responsibility, it really motivates me to keep going and making the content that I know you guys want to see. It is a fairly unique channel where it's very educational as much as it is a hunting show, and all the feedback I get is that's why people like watching it, is because I don't just go out there and kill stuff. It is a lot about how I go about things, why I have the gear that I have. And I think you'll come along for the ride, and there's no BS and it's all very genuine. So hopefully you can see the value in coming over and supporting me on Patreon. And if you do, I fully appreciate everything that comes my way, and hopefully when you get on there that you'll see the value in it, and a bit more community based and more interaction with me. I had a patron ask about what I take on a backpack trip, for a detailed list. So I have posted up a list that I do send out to clients when they're coming with me on a backpack hunt, but that's slightly different to what I carry, and that's purely because I'm sort of responsible for people in the bush, so I do carry a few other extra things, mainly just in my first aid. But so this pack's ready to go for a 3-day trip. So I usually walk in early afternoon on a Monday, then we spend all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday in the bush, and then on the Thursday morning we have a morning hunt, a pack up and a walk out. So we're normally back at the vehicle around about lunchtime. So that's what I call a 3-day hunt. It's 2 full days and 2 half days, which equals 3 days. So that's what this pack's loaded up for. Now it is heavy. This one, it's running about 16.5 kilos this trip. I've got some extra water in there because when we're going in the afternoon, we're camping on a ridge. I don't want to have to go to the river to get water. So I've got enough water for that night and the following morning. So I've got about close to 3 litres of water in here. And I have packed a little bit extra food this trip because it's going to be super cold. It's going to be a bit of snow. So I've got a little bit extra food, it's about an extra half kilo of food. So my food's running around about 2.5 kilos, which normally would run about 2 kilos for that same time. I've also got my river runners in for crossing the river. So they do add a little bit of extra weight. You can cross rivers without them, but God, it's so much easier on your feet and less painful to have these. So I sacrifice that little bit of weight for the comfort of crossing a river. So let's tear this pack apart. It is literally ready to go. So I'm just going to pull it all apart, and I'll also probably explain a little bit to you about how I pack it, like the sequence that I put things in. So try not to have too much hanging off my pack. If you where we're going is quite open, so it's not too bad get through the bush. But if it's a little bit scrubbier, you don't want things on the flopping around on the back because they will get caught up on the scrub. But basically the only thing I've got flopping around on the back is my my river runners and my Crocs. They're just on that. Now, the reason why you don't want too much hanging around is if clip does come loose and you lose it, you know, it's gone. So river runners. Now I'm just gonna. This is a pocket here that's not waterproof. It's just open, but it's got like this elastic part, so I've never lost anything out of there. But let's just lay this down for a second. So I've got my all my cooking gear here. So I run these little carabiners and clip them on to important things like your spoon, because there's nothing worse than eating your lunch or your tea with a stick, and I've had to do it before. So I've learnt that you put things on carabiner. So I've got my little gas cooker on a carabiner and my my spoon on a carabiner as well, so they don't get lost. 100 gram gas canister is enough for 3 days, and my titanium pot. So that's all my cooking gear, and it all just goes in there nice and neat. I know where it all is. It's all hooked together, so I can't lose it. Now also in here, something that doesn't matter if it gets wet, it's my fly. Got some game bags because these guys want venison this trip, so even though we're backpacking, we're going to be probably dragging a lot of meat out. Then I've just got this little bag here, and this is basically just a few little miscellaneous things in my knives. So backpacking, I only take light knives, so I've got my Zoe zipper, my helium, I've got some fire lighters, a spark, the plasma fire lighter, a backup cigarette lighter. I've got the fine stone out of my workshop. I know you can take all the bits, but I'm just saving a little bit of weight there. And I've got my compass for just in case we need it. It's always good to have something that doesn't rely on batteries for navigation. Everything is generally up in here with me, but in the dark sometimes just getting a bearing is all you need to keep going on the right track, or work out that you're on the wrong track. Righto, what else we got in here? Oh yeah, so I've got my ground mat, which is the window film from Bunnings. My filter for my water filtration system. So that's everything that was in that back pocket. Now in this side pocket, so it's got two side pockets. I've got my bone saw, which is brand new after running the last one through that deadhead. So I've got a new one. I've got my water bladder for grabbing extra water for camp, so that's 4 litres. Got my pegs for my fly. That's it on that side. This side I'm basically just running my tripod, so I'll just leave that in there. So that's everything that's on the outside. Now, as you can see, the pack is to the brim. This is only a 40 litre storage unit, the main compartment. So I'm running a lot smaller pack to what most people are. So this one's full, but I'm utilising everything that's in there. Oh, sorry, got the yoke for my tripod in here as well. So let's open up the main bag. Now, right, wet weather gear, pants and top, because we're expecting a bit of snow, a bit of wet weather. If I was expecting fine weather, I'd just take the top and wouldn't worry about the pants. Got my Survive Outdoors long bivvy. Got my my beanie tucked in there. UHF radio. My camera. You know, you could save a kilo by not having one of these. Now I just got some random freeze-dried meals, 3 of them. And my food all jammed in this dry bag. Always keep my food in the dry bag because pesky possums always mucking around trying to get in, and if you leave it out he will grab it. Little rat bag. Plus it's just good to be all in there. There should be another meal, so 3 meals. My first aid kit. So it's got a bit of everything in there. It's got some snake bite bandages, heaps of stuff for cuts, you know, steri strips and whatnot, some matches, some hand warmers, some Dettol, yeah, some EpiPens and a few other different bits and pieces, sterilisation pads and whatnot. So that's basically, so the food is quite heavy, so it's in the centre part of my pack, and right down in the bottom I've got my sleeping pad, mat, and my sleeping bag and my spare clothes. So I sort of put the lighter, bulkier stuff on the bottom, then I run the heavier stuff through the centre, so that weight is roughly in the centre part, slightly above your lower back. I find that stops your pack from pulling you over. You don't want to have heaps of weight up high, and you don't want it down really low either. So I run everything in dry bags, and that's because in there I've got 3 litres of water in my camel pack, which is in its, you know, little pocket, which most backpacks now have. So I won't pull that out, but you can see the lead coming out there. I prefer to run a camel pack because you don't have to stop to, you know, undo a bottle cap or anything, and just have a sip. And I like to drink regularly, but just little bits stops you getting dehydrated. So sleeping bags in here, couple of pairs of jocks, and I've got my mattress and thermals, gloves, and 2 pairs of fresh socks in there. So that's for 3 days. Now, this is big and bulky because I've got that big Cedar Summit Ether Extreme mat now. So it's 100mm thick. It's got that thermal rating, really high thermal rating. And that's why I can run this very lightweight ground mat, because I don't need to have like thermal insulation from the ground because of that mat. So basically this is just to stop all my gear from getting moist from if it's you know, a little bit wet on the ground when we turn up. Once I put this down, I usually just run a rock in each corner to stop it blowing away. But yeah, so this weighs about 40 or 50 grams, whereas my insulated ground mat weighs about 400. This mat does weigh a lot more than my Cedar Summit insulated ultralight, but it's way more comfortable. So I'm sort of sacrificing carrying a bit of extra weight for comfort, but I'm saving it on the ground mat, and also bought that Cedar Summit Spark 2 or 3, I think it's 2, sleeping bag, which is only 750 grams in a long. So I saved 250 grams on my sleeping bag, and I put it into my mat. So it's got the same thermal rating as my Nemo sleeping bag that I've been running for the last 4 or 5 years, but it's 250 grams lighter. So I put that weight into my mattress to get more comfort. If I was going to go super steep, super nasty stuff solo, I'd switch back to the to either the ultralight Cedar Summit mat, or I've got a what's the other brand? I've got this other super light one. It's only a 3/4 length and it weighs next to nothing, but it's something you only want to spend 1 or 2 nights on at the most. Yeah, anyway, so that's exactly what I take on a 3-day backpack. 16.5 kilos this trip. Like I said, I had 500 grams extra food, and I've got some extra water because I want to be able to not have to rely on going to the river to get water. So you could probably drop, I normally would only walk in with like a litre and a half of water. So there's 1.5 or 2 kilos that I could drop there, half a kilo there. So there's 2.5 kilos I could easily drop out of this pack. Could probably drop off the river runners, and that's, you know, they're only a couple 100 grams, but you know, you add them things up, might be about 3 kilos out of that pack. So we're in around about that 13 kilo, 12 kilo bracket. I've got a kilo's worth of camera and a kilo's worth of tripod. So you're down in around that 10 or 11 kilo bracket. And I could also drop another few 100 grams out of my mattress. I could drop the bivvy, and like if I was going solo, I wouldn't be taking a kilo and a bit of first aid. I'd just cut that right back down to some bandages and a couple of rolls of sticky tape. So you can get quite light if you're a minimalist, like I usually am when I'm solo, but when I've got clients with me, I've got more responsibility, and I'm spending more time in the bush, so the comfort sort of comes into it a bit more. When I'm hunting solo for myself, I don't worry about comfort, I just worry about getting into where I want to get into, as fresh as I can be and as mobile as I can be. If I can get my pack down to that 10 to 12 kilo bracket, I know that I can traverse a lot of steep, nasty country comfortably. Whereas when I'm starting to push 14, 15, 16 kilos, I know that it slows me down, wears me out, and it's just not as efficient. So hopefully that gives you a really good idea on what I run, and it might give you some ideas on how you should be packing your pack. Try to keep your bulky light stuff down low, your heavy stuff through the centre, and then your little knick-knacky stuff you can sort of poke in around little voids and stuff that you do find in your bag. But I fully utilise every bit of space in this pack. This pack is only a kilo empty. If you're not running ultralight sort of stuff, you definitely need to go to a bigger pack. So in that 65 or 70 litre bracket is what most people run. This is only a 40 litre with, I think it's got 10 litres of storage on the open pockets on the outside. So let's call it a 50 litre pack. Most people will be struggling to get all their gear into that, but I managed to do it. And once I've got into camp and I've unloaded my food, my sleeping gear, and a few other little things, this pack, boom, it's in nice and small, it tucks in, and I can off we go and hunt it. So I'm not having to carry a separate day bag with this pack. That's another advantage of it. But hopefully that gives you a good idea on how I run things, and might give you some great ideas for yourself. Righto, so I was doing the wrap up there and realised I didn't do the hip pockets. So there's only a couple of items in here that I run anyway, but always have it fully charged up. Light headlamp in here on the mode that you can keep hitting it and it won't stay on, so it won't burn a hole in it. But that one's got a proximity sensor anyway, so it wouldn't, but just so you don't deaden your battery accidentally. And the other hip pocket's basically got my EPIRB, so just running the little PLB in there. So that's literally everything that's in this pack. Definitely run your EPIRB in a hip belt or somewhere that you can access without having to take your backpack off. The reason for that is if you do have an accident and you have a spinal injury where you basically lost a lot of mobility or movement, you can get that PLB out of your hip pocket and hit that button to get help. Also, it's just good to have the headlamp here ready to go. Don't know how many times we're hunting late in the afternoon and it's time to head back to camp, and we'll be trudging along, and it gets to that time where you need that headlamp to safely see where you're walking. I just unzip, bang, it's on. We've got clients rummaging around and they actually need my torch to find their torch. So have those things that you need somewhere really accessible, because it just saves you time, it's convenient, you know where it is, it goes in the same spot every time, so you don't have to look for it. That's the tip of the day anyway.